We continue with the broadcast this morning on the Friday edition of News and Views. If you have just tuned in, we welcome you to the show. And the big talking point in Africa has been Guinea-Bissau, where military officers announced that they had seized total control of the country ahead of the expected release of the presidential results in the Western African nation. Now, we've also heard that Umaro Sisako Embalo arrived in Senegal a day after he was deposed in this military coup. And to unpack all of this, we are joined out of Sierra Leone. We joined by journalist Murtala Mohamed Kamara. Murtala Mohamed, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, and we do appreciate your time.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much. Juma Mubarak. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, all eyes are on Guinea-Bissau at this point in time, and perhaps just to begin with, if you can walk us through exactly what happened during the military takeover in the country.
So on the 26th of November, gunfire erupted in parts of the capital Bissau, especially around the presidential lodge. And few moments later, some military leaders, stormed the national television. They announced that they have taken over, the country. They have closed the land, air, and sea, borders. And so effectively, they announced a coup. And they also later, announced that the president, has been arrested, and the main opposition leader, who was also a main contender in the presidential election, was also arrested. So in effect, they announced the coup that they have taken over. And interestingly, Guinea-Bissau is no stranger, to coups. And this is the 15th, coup attempt, since the country gained independence, in the 1970s.
Well, that's a lot, actually. 15 is very, very long. But I suppose, the country, now that you mentioned 15 occasions, the country has got used to what these military coups are about. But again, each one is different. And just to understand, what would the immediate implications for the country's political stability be? And more importantly, for the civilian population as well?
So let us go back, to trigger, the coup, for our viewers to understand. Let us, give, context, of exactly what happened. There was a presidential, elections, that was held in Guinea-Bissau. Uh, the incumbent, president Umaru, he was the leading contender, with also the opposition leader. So just days before the final announcement, of the final result, the two leading presidential candidates, which is the incumbent, president and the opposition leader, they all announced that they have won the elections. So this back and forth, the military decided, to step in to take advantage, of the situation. Just a day, before the final announcement of the presidential election, they took over and announced a coup. So better, for the viewers to understand, the context. And Guinea-Bissau is a small, a tiny country in West Africa, but it has a history of instability, coups. Some sections, of the media describe it, as a narco state, with drug trafficking, you know, it's a country that has been used, as a transshipment point, from for drug trafficking, from drugs coming, from the South American, countries and all that. So yeah.
Yes, but also I think let's just try and understand some of the triggers for military intervention. Was this purely political, or are there deeper systemic issues that are at play in Guinea-Bissau?
I think it's both. Like I was saying, for this particular coup, what triggered it, is the elections. There were uh, issues about election results, and all that. And the president who was running for a second time. And interestingly, ever since the country gained independence, in the 70s, no president has ever succeeded, in winning a second time, elections. All of them is just one. So the country is, with coups, instability, and the rest of it. So what triggers this particular coup is as a result, of the elections dispute. The president, the president, said he won the elections, and the opposition leader also claimed that he won the election. So for this particular one, it's as a result, of uh, the elections. But we should also look at, other factors. Like I was saying, the country has been described, as a narco state, and in fact, what the military, has claimed is that. One of the reasons they gave, for the military coup, they said that they got information that a prominent, drug dealer, was influencing the election. So they decided, to step in, to take over and for take, the stability of Guinea-Bissau.
Yes. Now, clearly we've seen a lot of statements come through from some of the African countries expressing their concern with another military coup on the African continent. And just to understand how is the continent responding, or even the international community, and also forums like the African Union and other forums on Africa, how have they been responding to this coup?
Well, there was an election, the regional body, the African Union and the ECOWAS mission, they issued a joint statement immediately after the military leaders, announced the coup. And the mission, they have observers mission, in Guinea-Bissau. And I think the former president of Nigeria, Goodluck Jonathan, is in uh, in Nigeria because he's heading the ECOWAS, observers mission, so in Guinea-Bissau, government, I don't know if they have evacuated him. So they issued a statement that they condemn the coup d'etat, and they also said it came as a shock and as a surprise to them, because they have already held meetings, with the two leading candidates. That is the incumbent president Umaru, and also the main opposition, leader. They said just moments, before that meeting, they already held a meeting. And they discussed, the meeting was they described the meeting as a fruitful discussion, wherein they asked, the two political candidates, to accept final outcome of the elections result. So they said the two candidates accepted that whatever the outcome of the election results, they will accept it. So it came as a surprise, moment later, for them to see that the military taken over announced in a coup. So it came a complete surprise. So they condemn, the military coup in the first place, and they are saying that they are urging the military to return the country to constitutional order. And they also, ask us and the other international communities to take action, against, these military leaders.
Yes, and just finally, Murtala Mohammed, looking ahead at some of the scenarios that we could expect, or do you see unfolding in Guinea-Bissau over the next few months?
First of all, the military leaders have already announced to stay, for and they put the elections, in disarray, which means that they will not accept, whatever the outcome, the final outcome of these particular elections that were held. So it is null and void. And you know, judging by what we have seen, around the continent, military leaders, they come, They will tell you that we want to, stabilize the country, but at the end of the day, we have seen it in places like Guinea, for example. Also, Guinea is neighboring to Guinea-Bissau. They also had a military coup, with Dumbuya saying that he is not interested, in elections, or to prolong his power. And, with time, they tend to change. Now Dumbuya is contesting the elections, in Guinea. So I will not be surprised, to see a similar scenario happen in Guinea, to also happen in Guinea. So these military leaders, when they come, they will tell you that we are not interested in extending our staying powers, but from time to time they continue, to extend their stay. Some of them might be interested, but decided, to just contest, remove their uniforms, and contest. We have seen scenarios like this happening around in places like is it one of these East African countries. We saw a similar situation where military leader took advantage of it took power, then decided to contest in the elections and won in places like Chad. So this is not something new. We have seen this kind of situation play around the continent. So I'll be surprised for the current military leaders to decide sometime to contest presidential elections.
Well, Murtala Mohamed, Jazakallah khairan so much for your time. We do appreciate you taking time out with us right here on Salam Media. All the best to you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much for having me. Juma Mubarak.
Murtala Mohamed Kamara joining us this morning out of Sierra Leone, and also again unpacking the whole issue surrounding what is taking place in Guinea-Bissau. We have learned that the foreign ministry from Senegal talking about Umaro Sikaso Embalo arriving in the country, and apparently this was on an aircraft chartered by the Senegalese government as well. And we'll just have to wait and see, because at the end of the day, we've seen civil society groups talking about the election. And again, the legitimacy of the elections has come under a lot of scrutiny. It's come under the radar as well. But looking at some of the neighboring countries, like the country like the Senegal, reaffirming its readiness to work alongside ECOWAS and the African Union and all relevant partners with a view to supporting dialogue, stability, and the rapid restoration of constitutional order and democratic legitimacy in this nation. So, again, Africa has come under the radar. Another military coup, the 15th, as our guest has mentioned, in Guinea-Bissau. With that, we're going to go for a break. We come back and we are going to be joined in studio. Visiting us this morning on this Juma morning is Imam Jalani Abdul Karim, the chaplain at Rikers Island. You will recall he was here a few months ago, and once again, an absolute pleasure having him visit us here at Salam Media. And we will be talking on a number of issues. His work at Rikers Island, which is a prison, and also working a lot amongst the youth as well, but also the work that he does with incarcerated inmates in one of America's most notorious jails.